Okay, hi. So it's not usually the same setting. I feel like I'm gonna do this though. I said that from the last videos. I think I'm just gonna find like different spots and different areas to shoot. Today we are at the beach. Okay, so my family decided that they're gonna come to the beach, and I said, you know what, I could go. I am not going in the water, so I feel like I could probably just film a little video, a short video. Hopefully you can hear me because I know like the waves and maybe like the birds and stuff might make it challenging, but we are just gonna have a little conversation about life and how life has been lifing. Life is not easy. I feel like for me, a lot has been going on with my body, with my emotions, with my mind. It has just been so much, the stress, and I know for you it's probably the same thing. Like a lot has been going on, and you know how you usually start off at the beginning of the year, you want to start off right, you want to start off with your best foot, you want to, but yeah, by the end of the year you're like, please let it end, please just let this year come to an end because I'm tired. And that's how I feel. I feel like I'm tired. I'm tired. I feel I'm tired just like generally. So I know how much or how you guys probably feel as well. Just maybe exhausted from work, maybe exhausted from family, from school, from relationships, from friends. And yeah, so that's really what we're going to talk about today. Just how when life lifes, okay, when life is lifing. And everybody's circumstance is obviously not the same. There's some people who are in the smack dead middle of the trial, right? And they're not coming out, and God is not removing them until they learn the lesson. And as I just want to say to somebody, like, if right now you feel like life is very challenging and it's very hard, sometimes God leaves you in it a bit longer to work on your character, to work pruning you, to work on fixing you, to work on getting rid of certain mindsets that you might have, certain patterns that you might have. Sometimes he might just leave you there a little longer so that you can learn to rely on him. And that's a conversation I had with somebody last week, and they were saying, sometimes we go through this stuff so that we can learn how to be dependent on God and how to rely on God. Because the truth is, when life lives and when things happen, we try in our own strength to deal with the situation, to deal with whatever is happening in the circumstance, but really and truly God just wants us to rely on him. And it doesn't mean that he's going to just snatch us out of the situation, right? It doesn't mean that he's just going to snatch us out and pick us up and just like take us into like the best land of roses and everything. Sometimes you really do have to just stay in it until he's ready to remove you from it, So there's that. But for me specifically, I know that I don't know what it is. Let me just say that I don't know what it is. I feel like my emotions has been up and down. I feel like my mind has been all over the place, and I know for the most part it's an attack of the enemy. A lot of it is an attack of the enemy to get me to just shift and to get my faith to waver. So a lot of the stuff that you guys are going on is going on with you guys is not only like just natural things that's just happening as life happens. Like, yes, that will happen because we live in a natural world, but sometimes it is the attack of the enemy to get you to stop, to get you to give up, to get you to go on a different path, to get you to derail. For some people, it's to get you not to come to Christ, right? Because a lot of you might say, well, if all of this is happening to me and God exists, like, he can't be a good God, because why would all of this stuff be happening? And that's a video I actually want to film next week. I will shoot that video next week about why do good, well, I'm going to shoot it next week. You'll probably see it the next week after that. Why do bad things happen to good people? But yeah, and the truth is, bad things do happen because we live in this world, and this world is not easy. And the Bible talks about that. Like, I think there's a verse that says, in this world you will have trouble. So you're not, I think Jesus said that in this world you're going to have trouble, you're going to have trials, you're going to have tribulations, you're going to have hard times. But you can take joy in knowing that God has everything in control, that he's already going to work it out for your good. And it may not seem like that because you're smack in the middle of it. It may not seem like that because it seems like nothing is changing and it's the same thing over and over. And it's that you get up, you go to school, you get up, you go to work, you get up, and it's that you still have the sickness, you still have the broken marriage, you still have and nothing is changing. But that doesn't mean that you're going to be in your situation forever. So just a couple of things that I wanted to say is that when you are in the smack dead middle of a challenging time and just it being hard and it being difficult, the first thing that I would like to share with you is, and it's starting to rain, the first thing I would like to share with you is the fact that God is still with you. It might not seem like that, and it might not feel like that. It might not feel like he's with you. There was something that happened to me. I shared this in one of the videos though, like when I was in school, and I was so stressed because of school, and I was so tired, and I was like, Lord, just let me leave this place, let me do the exams and let me leave. And there was a particular exam that I really needed his help on because I was already stressed, and it was my last exam, it was the final one, and I was so stressed out. And I was like, Lord, I don't feel you. I don't know where you are. I can't, like, I feel that you left me, right? And I was so down and I was so depressed. I was just like, I want to leave, please. And the thing is, even though I felt like that in the middle of my situation, and even though I felt like he left me, that doesn't mean he actually left me. And for you, because of the situation you're in, because of the circumstance, because of whatever is going on with you, whatever trial you're in, whatever tribulation you're going through, whatever circumstance or situation you're in, that's just a lot, right? It's just life is lifing. Whatever situation that is, God is still with you. He's still with you. And I understand that our emotions might make us feel like he's left. And we think that God is not with us because he's not changing the circumstance. And that's something I had to learn. I felt like if I'm still in the middle of this nonsense, right? If I'm still in this crap, like, God can't be with me. Like, if you were with me, I wouldn't be going through this. And that's not true. It is, even when you are going through it, he is with you. So it doesn't mean just because your circumstance hasn't changed, it doesn't mean that he's not with you. He is with you despite that unchanging circumstance, despite the fact that you still look like you're in the same place. It still looks like you're at the beginning of the race. It looks like people have gone ahead of you and gone up further than you. Despite all of that, he's still with you. And for the story that comes to mind is with Peter, when Peter walked out on the water, right? And what is it, Peter, that I want to use? Is it that one? Y'all, this is gonna be a very candid video. I think so. When he walked out on the water, and oh no, that's not the one I want to use. The one I want to use is when they were in the middle of the storm, right? And all the disciples would have been on a boat, and a storm came, and all the storm was all around them, and it was not like just low rain. It was like a full-blown storm, right? And even though they're in the middle of this storm, even though they're in the middle of this circumstance, this thing that just looks so bad, that they're not going to get out of it, that they're going to die, it feels like they're going to die, it looks like they're going to die, it seems like they're just going to die in this storm, Jesus was with them. He was in the boat with them. And I think that's just a testament, or just an example to show that even in the middle of what, there's a crab. Y'all, wait. You can see it, I'm sorry. No, wait a minute. Sorry, now I saw something. I saw something in the middle of my ice. Now if that come out here, I'm going. I'm telling y'all that right now. I am leaving. I'm leaving. So what I was saying is that even though you might feel like you're in the middle of a storm and the situation is bad, the situation is not changing, it just looks awful, it looks terrible, he is with you. He's still with you. And that unchanging circumstance doesn't mean that he's not there, right? Just because you haven't been pulled out of the mess doesn't mean he's not there. He's not going to leave you. And the verse that I picked out this, when I was sitting here, I was looking for a verse to use, and it's Isaiah 41:10, which says, "Don't be afraid, for I am with you. Don't be discouraged, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will hold you up with my victorious right hand." And before I get to the part of him being with us, just that latter part, I will hold you up with my righteous right hand. A lot of us, we just need holding up. He's not going to take away the circumstance. He's not going to take away the situation, but he's going to hold us up through it. You are going to be held up. So where you feel that you're falling and you're failing and life isn't changing and the circumstance isn't changing and the situation isn't changing and you feel like giving up, he is going to hold you up. He is going to lift you up. And it doesn't mean that you're going to just feel like 100% and you're going to walk around cloud 9. It just means that in the middle of it, as you walk around, as you go about, that he's the one who's actually holding you up. And I know that for sure in my life, that there's times where I'm like, Lord, I can't go on. So just because I make these videos doesn't mean, let me tell y'all, I be going through it. I go through it. Just, I think like last week, I feel like my emotions were just all out of whack. My emotions were just crazy. And I remember sitting in the bathroom floor. I remember sitting in the bathroom floor and I'm just crying out and bawling, and that was happening for like maybe like a week straight, because I felt tired, I felt exhausted, I felt like my mind was just like, it wasn't where it was supposed to be. I felt like I was falling in certain areas, and I was falling in certain areas too. And to me, it's like in those moments, right, I know it doesn't feel like it, but I know he's holding me up, because the fact that I still have breath in my lungs means he's still there, right? He's still there. He still wants me. He still desires me. He still has a plan, and he still has a purpose, right? So I remember being in the bathroom floor, and all I could do is just like believe that the circumstance would change. I just cried out to God and believe the circumstance would change, and believe that the situation would turn around. So for you, he is holding you up. And again, I would say it doesn't mean that your situation is going to do 100% turn around right away, but he is the one who is holding your hand and walking you through it. And just think of the image of like a young girl or a young boy, and they're just walking with their father. That's him with you. And it doesn't mean that you're going to be able to see him at every single point, right? May not be able to hear every single instruction, right? But it doesn't mean that he is not with you. So going back to the verse, it says, don't be afraid, for I am with you. Don't be afraid. And that's so hard. Like sometimes you read the scriptures, right? And it's be like, listen, Lord, listen. What do you mean? Because what do you mean don't be afraid? There's so much that is going on. There's these circumstances don't look good, it doesn't feel good, it doesn't seem right. Like this person said this about me, this person is acting this way towards me. Like, what do you mean don't be afraid? Like, it seems like the circumstance is getting worse. And that's the truth. Sometimes we're in these things and it's already bad and it's getting worse, and you're like, Lord, how much more do you think I can take? Because if you think it's more, it's not. It really isn't. But this verse says, do not be afraid. And the reason you're not being afraid is not because you have it figured out. It's because he has it figured out. It's not because you are because of your efforts and everything you're putting in that you don't have to worry. Is because of him. It's because you know that he is going to work it out for your good. You know that he's going to start with the situation. And even if there's a lot of bad things happening around you, he can take every single one of those bad things and make it work out for your good. If you have a bad situation and a good situation, if you had 10 bad situations, it's like all of that he's going to use and he's going to work it out. So that's the reason not to be afraid. Don't be afraid, because the God who made you, who made the people around you, who made the sun, who made the stars, who made everything, he's telling you don't be afraid. Not because you got it, but because he has it under control, and because he has everything on lockdown. He has everything under control because of his providence and his protection and his ability to maneuver and to change and to alter circumstances. You do not have to be afraid, and you could trust him and you could believe, well, Lord, if you said don't be afraid, it's because you know what's going to happen and you know how to turn this around and you know how to change it. So that's something I wanted to share too. So the verse again is, don't be afraid, for I am with you. Don't be discouraged, for I am your God. Can y'all hear the birds? Don't be afraid, for I am with you. Don't be discouraged, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will hold you up with my righteous right hand. The next thing that I want to talk about though is, one second, I'm chasing the birds. I'm not young, so I hear them though, but at least they won't be completely in earshot because they're right in front of me. I don't have no food, so I don't know why they're coming near me. Anyway, the next thing that I wanted to share is not only the fact that he is with you, which is, I think, the most challenging part, especially where you're going through that you keep falling in the same area, in the same sin. Like, something is very challenging to believe that he is with you, because it's like, Lord, how can you look at me when I'm doing this? How can you look at me when I'm still in this situation? But despite you being in this situation, despite you falling, despite all of that, he is still with you. He is still near you. He still wants you. He still desires you. He still loves you. The sin might make you feel as though you need to run away, you need to walk away, you need to turn away from God, but he is still with you. He's still with you, and that's something that you have to believe. And the example I always use is with Adam and Eve, where they had first sinned and they ate the fruit and everything, and they began to hide, right? So they sinned and they began to hide. But you see that in the next verse it says that God came through the garden, he called out for them. It means he came back to them and he started looking for them again. So if that's you and that's the situation you're dealing with, God is still with you. He still loves you. He's still pursuing you. You just need to trust that he's going to work out whatever it is that you're going through for your good. He is going to change the circumstance and he's going to uphold you. So the next thing that I wanted to share is not only that he is with you, but also Psalms 18:6, he hears you. And I kind of referenced this a little before when I was talking about when I was in the bathroom. You know, sometimes we're going through stuff and we think that we're just crying out to a wall, like he's not hearing. But God hears every cry that you make. He hears every song that you make. Sorry, I had to run to my family because they were asking me the time. Yo, I'm telling y'all, I need to, why am I out of breath? So what I was saying is, I don't even remember what I was saying. I was talking about Psalms 18:6. I was talking about how God hears you. Right, I was saying that sometimes it feels like you are crying out at a wall, and sometimes it feels like you are just God actually can't hear you, and it feels like you're just talking to nobody, because again, it's like God, how's the breath? Arguing stuff. So it feels like this is a serious video, but I'm just alright, this is conversation. So it feels like you're just like talking to yourself, and it feels like, man, God, you're not hearing me. You're not hearing me. You're not hearing me. And again, it's because we think that because he's not changing the circumstance that he's not hearing us. And we think that because he's not altering the situation, or he's not making the person listen, changing the person's heart, bringing the money, healing us. It's like, God, I'm crying out to you constantly, but you are not hearing me because you're not changing it. But there's something a friend of mine said, and when she said it, it always stood out to me. When she said that tears is a language as well. So even when you cry, right, God knows what every single tear represents. He knows when it represents grief. He knows when it represents depression. He knows when it represents you giving up. He does know all of this stuff, and he does hear you. He does hear when you cry out. He does hear when you just are at your wits end and you're angry and you're yelling and you're shouting. He like, even the things that are left unsaid, because we think that we always have to say something, but even like within us, we talk to ourselves, and he hears all of it. He hears how tired you are because nothing is changing. It feels like I'm doing the same thing. I'm doing everything I could possibly do and nothing is changing. I know that for sure in my life, because there's like, I'm working at certain things. I'm allowing God to sanctify me. I'm trying to walk holy and stuff, but there's some stuff that just hasn't changed yet, and a lot of it is because of like me not wanting to let go of certain desires. Is because of sometimes the attack of the enemy. Sometimes it could be so many different reasons, but within myself, I just feel like giving up. I know that he still hears those voices. He still hears my voice feeling to give up, wanting to give up, saying like, Lord, I can't take this anymore. He hears you, and you should find comfort in that, because even though like it might feel like, again, the circumstance hasn't changed, he is hearing every single thing that you are saying, and because he cares. It's not like God is just allowing this stuff to happen to you, or life is just happening and this stuff is happening to you, and God is just there like, well, you can get through this, because yeah, it's not that he hears and he sees and he understands what we're going through. And I just want to point out the verse, Psalms 18:6, which says, but in my distress I cried out to the Lord. Yes, I prayed to my God for help. He heard me from his sanctuary. My cry to him reached his ears. And to me, that is just so amazing, because for you, it's not that he's not hearing you. So that lie that the enemy would want you to know, or the lie that you are telling yourself, is like, God isn't listening to me, God isn't hearing me. That's not true. And especially because this verse shows us, it says, but in my distress I cried out. So when you are feeling distressed, down, desperate, hurt, abandoned, when you cry out to God, he hears you. And then on top of that, it says, yes, I pray to my God for help. So when you're crying out, it's okay. You can ask him for help in that moment. You can ask him, Lord, change my circumstance, change what is happening. Cry out to him, because he is hearing all of these prayers. And then the next one is, he heard me from his sanctuary. My cry to him reached his ears. Your cry to him is not falling short, is not butting the ceiling and coming back down. It is going up to him. And when you do cry out, and when you do call out to him, and when you do like have these even inward thoughts where you're talking to God, he's listening to you. And I know sometimes it feels like, well, Lord, if you're listening to me, why are you changing this? Why are you not altering this way? And it could be so many reasons for that, but I just want to like let you know that he's hearing you. He hasn't left you. He is hearing you. He is listening to you. He does care about how you feel, and he is responding to you. Like, as you cry out to him, he answers you. And his answer might not come like this voice like mine, but his answer might come in like comfort. His answer might tell you, he might say to remain, to stay a little longer, to trust. Sometimes we want his voice to be so loud and so booming, but his voice isn't always like that. So yes, he can speak audibly, and that's a video we'll do it another time, like how does God speak, so you can know. But sometimes it's not always like this. It's rarely an audible voice, rarely. Sometimes it's just a small whisper within yourself. And as he does that, he is revealing to you how to handle the situation, right? He is revealing to you, he will say stuff like to remain, or to stay, or to trust me, or I love you, or I understand, or keep looking at me, you know, stuff like that. And it depends on what the situation is, he will respond to it. Sometimes even him not answering, right, is still an answer, because he's still, how do I put this? As much as we want like the exact answer right now, sometimes even him not answering, right? Because for a lot of us, it's like he's not answering because he gave the instruction last time, right? He said what he had to say, last time, and we need to go back to that instruction and find out what that is. So that's what I would want to say there. And the last thing I would want to say is that I'm going to use Hagar, which is in Genesis 16, 6 to 15. And it is that, well, I would read it because that might be easier. Now Sarah, Abram's wife, had not been able to bear children for him, but she had an Egyptian servant named Hagar. So Sarah said to Abram, "Look, the Lord has prevented me from having children, so go and sleep with my servant. Perhaps I can have children through her." And Abram agreed, with Sarah's proposal. So Sarah, Abram's wife, took Hagar, the Egyptian servant, and gave her to Abram as a wife. This happened 10 years after Abram has settled in the land of Canaan. So what's happening here is that Sarai can't have children. And because she can't have children, she took her servant. She said, she gave her servant to her husband. I said, "Look, I can't have children. Sleep with this woman. You can have children through her." Right? And there's no way a lot of us is doing that. I didn't do that. What you want? So Abram had sexual relations with Hagar, and she became pregnant. But when Hagar knew she was pregnant, she began to treat her mistress Sarah with contempt. Then Sarah said to Abram, "This is all your fault. I put my servant into your arms, but now that she's pregnant, she treats me with contempt. The Lord will show who's wrong, you or me." So it's like he does go and sleep with her, but from the time she gets pregnant, Hagar then begins to treat Sarah badly. And now Sarah goes back to her husband and it's like, "Look, it's your fault." Okay, you sleep with this woman and now she got pregnant, she coming at me. So all that's happening, right? Then verse 6, Abram replied, "Look, she is your servant, so deal with her as you see fit." Then Sarai treated Hagar so harshly that she finally ran away. So Hagar ran away because of how she was treated, right? The angel of the Lord found Hagar beside a spring of water in the wilderness along the road of Shur. The angel said to her, Hagar, Sarai's servant, where have you come from and where are you going?" She said, "I'm running away from my mistress Sarai." The angel of the Lord said to her, "Return to your mistress and submit to her authority." Then he added, "I will give you more descendants than you can count." And the angel also said, "You are now pregnant and will give birth to a son. You are to name him Ishmael, which means God hears. For the Lord has heard your cry of distress," which is something we're talking about just now. He hears when you cry. This son of yours will be a wild man and as untamed as a wild donkey. He will raise his fist against everyone, and everyone will be against him. Yes, he will live in open hostility against all his relatives. Then verse 13. Thereafter, Hagar used another name to refer to the Lord who had spoken to her. She said, "You are the God who sees me." She also said, "Have I truly seen the one who sees me?" Verse 14. So that well was named Beer Laroy. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that. Which basically means well of the living one who sees me. So she ran away, and after she ran away, the angel came to her, and the angel said, "Look, go back. You need to go back." But also, the thing that I want to point out here is that the Lord heard her cries. The Lord heard her cries, and that's why she's saying, not only did he hear my cries, but he also saw me. So she ran away, and despite her running away, God still saw her. God still knew her. God still knew where she was, and he was still able to go after her. So for you, you might be in such a dire situation or a hard situation or circumstance, and you might feel like, man, this is just a lot. But even in the midst of that, God still sees you. And I want that to encourage you, that even though you're in this circumstance or situation, God still is with you. Not only is he with you, he still hears you. And not only does he hear you, he still sees you. And again, that does not mean that the circumstance will change right away, but you have someone who is in the circumstance with you, who is walking it out with you, who, despite it not changing, he is not going to leave you. Despite it not changing, he still sees you. Despite it not changing, he still hears you. And he's not going to forsake you and run away. He cares about the circumstance and the situation and the problem that you're in, and he is going to work it out. But this is a God who doesn't cast us aside and leave us in this world by ourselves. He's a God that is with us through the entire thing that we're going through, the entire circumstance, the entire situation, the entire process, whatever it is or whatever it may look like. The last thing I want to say is as life is lifing, and as things are going on, and things feel crazy, and things feel unfair, you could literally say this prayer. You could say, Lord, despite I'm going through this, I know that you see me. God, despite I'm going through this, I know that you hear me. And God, despite I'm going through this, I know that you are with me. And because of all of those things, I can trust you. The point of this entire thing is to say, yes, he sees, yes, he hears, yes, he's with you. And because of all of that, you can trust him. It's different if he couldn't hear your circumstance. It's different if he didn't know where you were, he didn't see you. It's different if he left you. But because he hasn't done all of those things, and he is with you, and he does see you, and he does hear you, you can trust him. You can trust him to help you through the circumstance, or you can help him to get you out of it. And for a lot of you, sometimes he's not always going to pull you out, but he's going to help you through it. He's going to help you through it. So you're going to have to walk every day sometimes with the same feeling, but eventually he is going to bring you out of it, and you are going to feel joy. And some of you you're going to feel joy even in the midst of it, but you're going to feel joy. You're going to feel a relief. He is going to help you through this circumstance, help you through this situation. You are going to feel joy. You're going to feel a relief. You're going to feel comforted. So let this comfort you, as it's going to comfort me. Because like I said, like, it's not like my situation changed. It's not like my circumstance changed. Like, I'm still very much going through it, right? But he's with me. He's near me. He sees me. He hears me. And because of all of that, I am trusting him. I'm trusting him. And even if he doesn't change my circumstance, I'm still going to praise him, because he's a God that deserves praise despite whatever I go through. So that's the end of the video. That's the end of a short conversation. I hope that you guys like this kind of more, I guess, free-flowing type of video, not really so like fixed, and I think I'm going to do more of these just conversations. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation. I hope you could hear me, because I didn't walk with my mic, okay? But yeah, that's pretty much it. One other thing I want to say is I don't think I'm going to be posting on Saturdays as frequently, but it will be every other week. But it may not be on Saturdays. It might be throughout the week. It might be a little bit more free flowing, but that might work a little better for me, and I hope it helps you as well. So that's the end of this video. I hope that you have a blessed day. I hope that you remember that God is with you, that he sees you, that he is near you, that he hears you, and because of that, you can trust him. You can trust him to get you through whatever you're going through, or get you out whatever you're going through. But even if he doesn't, he still deserves all the praise. So bye. You will not see me next week, but the week after, someday the week after. And even if not, I'll eventually post another video. So that's it. Remember to follow me on Instagram, on TikTok, and on Facebook. Like the video, share the video, comment on the video, what is it that you want God to do for you right now. You want him to see you, you want him to hear you, you want him to be near you, and just know that all of those things he actually is doing right now. So bye. Differently, right? Does the water not look nice? Does the water not look nice, guys? Alright, it's time to pack up. It's time to go.